Michael, good morning. We're up on top of that bluff. This is as close as we can get and stay safe, and here's why. Look at the edge. The pavement just crumbled away. Another 20 feet used to go out there, all of it falling over the edge over just the last 2 weeks.
Scientists are sounding urgent warnings as a sweeping wave of destruction overtakes the California coastline, one defined by fear, shock, and unmistakable signs of permanent change. Right now, cliffs that once appeared stable are splitting apart, highways are fracturing, and vast sections of land are collapsing into the restless Pacific Ocean below. Sirens and shouted warnings cut through the thunder of the surf as residents rush to flee homes balanced dangerously close to the edge of failure. This is not a passing storm, nor a familiar seasonal pattern of erosion. It signals the arrival of a new era, one in which landscapes shaped over thousands of years are unraveling in a matter of hours. Specialists describe the forces driving this crisis as relentless, volatile, and accelerating far faster than previously anticipated. For communities along Pacifica, Humboldt Bay, and other high-risk portions of the Central Coast, the reality is stark and unsettling. Ground that felt solid just yesterday has disappeared today, broken, unreachable, swallowed by storm-darkened water. Engineers scramble to respond, racing to install sand berms and emergency barriers that are already buckling under the immense pressure. Emergency alerts flash across towns, even as communication systems falter and power flickers out with every surge of salt water and debris. The devastation is etched not only into shattered cliffs and submerged roadways, but into the expressions of families hauling cherished belongings from homes that may never be habitable again. What makes this disaster especially disturbing is the speed at which it escalates, how quickly concern turns into catastrophe, leaving officials and residents with little time to act. Storm-driven waves show no mercy. Each new surge chews away at the remaining defenses, separating neighborhoods from the void. The question has shifted from whether California's coastline will be permanently altered to how much, if anything, will remain once this phase of destruction finally subsides. Yet the danger does not stop at the shoreline. What is unfolding along the water's edge is merely the most visible sign of a far deeper and more widespread threat, a convergence of forces destabilizing not just beaches and bluffs, but entire communities and ways of life. As social media fills with images of collapsing roads and shattered seawalls, more troubling questions linger. Why is California's coast unraveling now? Why does this moment feel so different, so relentless, compared to anything experienced before? What forces are truly driving this crisis? And what warnings are buried within the science? The answers, drawn from decades of research and expanding datasets, reveal a narrative as profound as it is unsettling, one in which erosion, landslides, and sudden loss are only the opening chapter. For generations, the California coastline has symbolized endurance, carving a dramatic boundary between human development and untamed nature. But in recent months, accelerated by repeated storms and punishing wave energy, this boundary has begun to fail under mounting stress. In Pacifica, long admired for its scenic bluffs and idyllic homes overlooking endless blue horizons, the land itself is vanishing. Cameras installed on evacuated properties capture decks collapsing into the surf, retaining walls cracking apart, and backyards shrinking as the ocean steadily advances. The imagery is stark, documenting just how fast the collapse is happening. Segments of Highway 1, patched and rebuilt after earlier disasters, now lie twisted and broken, scattered by landslides that strike without warning, often overnight. Utility crews responding in heavy rain and fierce winds find themselves immobilized as hazards multiply. Roads transform into channels of mud and debris, spilling into neighborhoods filled with the unmistakable scent of upheaval. In Humboldt Bay, fishermen watch docks disappear and entire harbors flood in scenes described as without precedent. These events are not isolated incidents. They represent a new tempo along the coast, destruction arriving with the regularity of the tide, measured not over decades, but sometimes over days or weeks. Coastal scientists, including Dr. Chad Nelson, frequently referenced in analyses of shoreline change, stress the compound nature of what is occurring. Massive landslides and sudden cliff collapses do more than reshape terrain. They expose communities to cascading consequences. Water mains rupture, gas lines fail, and critical access routes for ambulances and firefighters vanish. Each incident erodes not only the land, Dr. Nelson explains, but also the interconnected systems that sustain daily life. Farther south in Santa Cruz, boardwalks are swallowed by surging brown seawater, fencing warped by earlier storms, giving way entirely. Satellite imagery comparing before and after conditions reveals a coastline retreating at alarming speed. Neighborhoods once considered safely distant from the water now face abrupt drop-offs, where land has simply disappeared. Families describe sleepless nights spent listening to the earth grind and shift beneath their homes, a reminder that the ground itself is no longer still. The broader realization is sobering. The Pacific Ocean, long woven into California's identity as a symbol of opportunity and progress, has become an unyielding adversary. Every evacuation order, every road closure, every toppled utility pole reflects a coastline losing both physical ground and a sense of certainty. As failures accumulate, long-held beliefs about permanence crumble faster than the cliffs themselves. What is unfolding along California's shoreline is not the result of a single storm or an unusually severe winter. It is something far more persistent, a collision of rare oceanic and atmospheric conditions acting on a landscape weakened by decades of overuse and human miscalculation. Rising sea levels, confirmed by extensive scientific study, are steadily gnawing away at California's famed edge, pushing the high water line farther inland each year. Researchers at national and state institutions have tracked these changes for decades, yet even they express concern at the pace of the current collapse. We're witnessing rapid erosion in areas where stability was expected to last for decades, explains Dr. Michael Mudian, referencing recent findings from failing cliffs in Pacifica and other coastal zones. Infrastructure and homes once believed to be safely inland now sit squarely in harm's way. It is not only the amount of water, but the energy carried by each successive storm. Long-period waves, amplified by shifting atmospheric and oceanic patterns, transfer extraordinary force to the shoreline. Unlike shorter waves, these surges do not dissipate before landfall. They build, strike harder, and undermine defenses designed for once-in-a-lifetime events. Retaining walls fail within a single season. Flood barriers, dunes, and concrete seawalls, projects costing millions in public funds, are rendered ineffective by storm surges and record tides. Aerial footage broadcast nationwide shows piers retreating, public spaces submerged, and highways rerouted indefinitely. While the financial toll already reaches hundreds of millions of dollars, the psychological impact is harder to quantify. Behind closed doors, planners replace talk of repairs with discussions of managed retreat and permanent closures. Dr. Nelson emphasizes the larger pattern. This isn't erosion as we traditionally understood it, he says. This is accelerated landscape failure, an interaction between geology, human development, and climate change. Each storm compounds the damage, leaving progressively less ground to defend. Alongside the visible destruction, a quieter fear takes hold. What happens when property lines vanish, insurance boundaries dissolve, and entire neighborhoods slip into legal uncertainty or disappear entirely? In Pacifica, Santa Cruz, and coastal communities to the north, social bonds are strained as residents confront choices with no historical precedent. And the threat goes deeper still. Beneath the collapsing cliffs and pounding surf lies another destabilizing force, detectable only through instruments and long-term observation. For years, scientists assumed that despite relentless wave action, California's shoreline remained fundamentally anchored. Recent data has shaken that belief. Sensors buried beneath dunes, wetlands, and urban areas, from San Francisco's Marina District to Orange County marshlands, record subtle but persistent land subsidence. This slow sinking is invisible day to day, but devastating when combined with storms and rising tides. Subsidence is the missing piece, Dr. Nelson explains. People assume the ground is fixed. It isn't. Add sinking land to rising seas and wave-driven erosion, and the coast doesn't just erode, it collapses. Recent landslides near Humboldt Bay illustrate this dangerous synergy. Carefully engineered sand berms designed for extreme scenarios are overtaken within hours. Crews dispatched to reinforce defenses find their access routes shifting or vanishing altogether as the terrain moves beneath them. Structural engineers working atop Pacifica's bluffs report deep fissures opening near foundations, clear signs that the land is moving even as waves attack from below. Satellite time-lapse imagery, widely shared online and used in scientific analysis, shows year-over-year retreat accelerating. Dunes flatten, cliffs recede, and the boundary between land and sea is redrawn at an ever faster pace. As conditions worsen, the cost of intervention becomes increasingly difficult to justify. Projects intended to reinforce or rebuild are sometimes obsolete before completion, overtaken by the combined assault of ocean energy and subsidence. For communities unable or unwilling to relocate, the prospect of permanent evacuation shifts from theory to looming reality. Across council meetings and kitchen tables, a single question echoes: how long can defenses hold when the ground itself is moving? If this crisis carries a lesson, it is that stability and upheaval are now separated by millimeters and moments, not years or generations. In this new era of coastal instability, hazards arrive together. Atmospheric shifts, marine heat waves, prolonged rainfall, and saturated soils stack upon one another, each amplifying the last. Winter rains that once soaked harmlessly into the ground now saturate bluffs, already weakened by saltwater intrusion. When slopes reach their limit, debris flows cascade downward, burying streets, gardens, and sometimes entire homes. Insurance providers, facing losses beyond existing models, reassess coverage as questions of responsibility grow more complex. Emergency managers confront cascading threats with limited options. Roads are closed as sensors detect landslide risk and blocked waterways. In hillside communities, water rises not only from the sea, but from below as groundwater is forced upward by high tides. Areas once thought immune reveal hidden vulnerabilities. Storm drains back up, sinkholes open, and property values shift as desirable locations become risk zones. Power outages stretch on as substations are damaged and communication networks falter when they are needed most. This is not a failure of a single system, but of many, their interdependencies exposed in real time. The shifting edge between land and sea is more than a spectacle of natural force. It is a test of planning, safety, and assumptions about permanence. Floodplain maps built on decades of data become outdated almost as soon as they are drawn. Surveyors and emergency officials mark new boundaries that sometimes cut through former living rooms or neighborhood parks. Live data from coastal monitoring networks confirms the warning. Real-time conditions are exceeding historical limits. Coastal living is no longer about past averages. It is about adapting to a moving target. Along the Central Coast, families monitor every storm with unease. Familiar rituals, beach walks, sunsets, summer gatherings are overshadowed by a persistent question. Will the next surge erase what remains? The pace of change leaves little doubt. California's edge is not simply shifting. In many places, it is disappearing. As dawn breaks over battered shorelines, response teams move through transformed neighborhoods, clearing debris, restoring essential services, and providing shelter. Yet for many, recovery is only the beginning. Beaches once wide and welcoming are fenced off by warning tape. Bluff-top homes stand abandoned or precariously spared. Parks, boardwalks, and landmarks exist only in photographs and memory. Still, beneath exhaustion, a new idea emerges: resilience. Town leaders move from shock to action, holding meetings by generator light, weighing what can be defended and how best to adapt. Some communities form new coalitions, accepting that restoration of the old coastline is no longer possible. We're starting from a new baseline every time the ocean advances, one expert notes. The only constant now is change. Across research labs, survey flights, and community halls, the message is the same. The land that shaped California's identity is now reshaping what it means to live by the sea. Some embrace retreat, allowing natural buffers to return. Others grieve what is lost, searching for ways to adapt without surrendering entire towns. As the sun sets on a transformed horizon, one truth remains clear. California's coast is not just changing. It is teaching lessons in humility, planning, and the limits of control. The question is no longer whether more erosion and landslides will come, but whether communities can learn, adapt, and endure as the boundary with the Pacific grows ever more uncertain. Stay alert, stay prepared, and remember, the line between land and sea has never been as fixed as it once seemed.